You know that feeling when you pick up your phone to check the time and put it down 17 minutes later, having no idea what you just looked at? Yeah, me too. The scary part isn't that it happened. The scary part is that you don't even remember deciding to do it. So here's the question nobody's actually answering. If you already know you're on your phone too much, and you do know, why can't you stop? Let's start with the obvious answer, and why it's wrong. Most people think they're on their phone too much because they have bad habits, or weak willpower, or they're just a little addicted to social media. And the solution, logically, is to just use it less. Set a timer, delete the apps, put it in another room. You've tried that. It didn't work. And here's why that's not your fault. Your phone is not a bad habit. It's a slot machine you carry in your pocket. Think about how a slot machine works. You pull the lever, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. And it's that unpredictability, not the winning, that makes it impossible to stop. Your brain doesn't get hooked on the reward. It gets hooked on the maybe. Every time you open Instagram or Twitter or your messages, you don't know what's going to be there. Maybe something interesting, maybe nothing. Maybe something that makes you feel good about yourself. Maybe something that makes you feel terrible. Your brain doesn't care which one. It just needs to find out. This is called a variable reward schedule, and it's the same psychological mechanism behind gambling addiction. The same engineers who designed these apps have said publicly, in interviews, in books, in Senate hearings, that this was intentional. You were never supposed to be able to put it down easily. So now you know why willpower doesn't work. But that raises a bigger question. If the phone is designed to be irresistible, why are some people less addicted than others? Here's the part nobody talks about. The phone isn't the problem. The phone is just the answer. What I mean is this. You don't reach for your phone randomly. You reach for it because something triggered you. And that trigger is almost always one of 5 things: boredom, anxiety, loneliness, procrastination, or habit. Let's take boredom first, because it's the sneaky one. We've been trained to think boredom is bad, unproductive, a waste of time. So the second we feel it, waiting in a queue, sitting in silence, 2 minutes between tasks, we immediately fill it. And the phone is the easiest fill there is. But here's what's actually happening when you're bored and you don't reach for your phone. Your brain shifts into a mode called the default mode network. And in that mode, your brain is doing some of its most important work: connecting ideas, processing emotions, generating creative thoughts, figuring out problems you didn't even know you were working on. Every time you kill boredom with your phone, you're interrupting that process. The people who seem most creative, most clear-headed, most at peace with themselves, they're not smarter. They've just learned to sit with boredom long enough for something useful to come out of it. But boredom is only one trigger, and honestly, it might be the easiest one to deal with. The harder one is anxiety. Here's something I want you to think about honestly. When do you reach for your phone most compulsively? Not casually, compulsively. The kind of reaching where you don't even notice you're doing it. For most people, it's when something feels uncomfortable. A difficult conversation just ended. A deadline is approaching. There's a decision you've been avoiding. Something feels off and you can't quite name it. The phone doesn't solve any of those things, but it does something almost as powerful. It interrupts them. For the duration of the scroll, you're not feeling whatever you were feeling. You're feeling a mild, low-stakes stimulation instead. And your brain learns very quickly that this works. Uncomfortable feeling appears, phone appears. Uncomfortable feeling disappears. Except it doesn't disappear. It waits. And this is where it gets important. Because if your phone use is largely driven by anxiety or emotional avoidance, then no app limit or screen time restriction is going to fix it. You're not addicted to your phone. You're using your phone to cope. And coping mechanisms don't respond to timers. So what do you do instead? That's what we're getting to. But first, there's one more thing you need to understand about what this is actually costing you. And it's not what most people think.
Everyone talks about screen time like the problem is the hours. I spent 4 hours on my phone today. Okay, but 4 hours doing what? 20 minutes of maps and voice calls and paying a bill? Useful. 3 hours and 40 minutes of scrolling content you won't remember by tomorrow? That's the problem. And the problem isn't the time, it's the attention. Here's a number that should bother you. After any interruption, a notification, a quick phone check, someone tapping you on the shoulder, it takes an average of 23 minutes to return to full focus on what you were doing. 23 minutes. If you're checking your phone every 10 to 15 minutes throughout your workday, you are never, not once, reaching deep focus. You are spending your entire working life in the shallow end, wondering why nothing feels as good as it used to, why work feels harder, why you feel tired even when you haven't done that much. It's not burnout. It's fragmentation. And it goes beyond work. Think about the last really good conversation you had, one where you felt genuinely heard, genuinely connected, like time disappeared a little. Now think about how often your phone was on the table during that conversation. There's a study, and I find this one genuinely unsettling, where researchers found that simply having a phone visible on the table during a conversation, not being used, just sitting there, reduced the quality of the connection both people felt. Just the presence of it, because some part of both people's brains knew it was there and stayed slightly alert to it. We've built a device that makes us less present to each other just by existing in the room. So here's the real question. Not how do I spend less time on my phone, but what do I want to actually be present for? And what's it going to take to get there? Now we get to the part you actually came for. What works? And I'm going to be upfront with you. Some of what I'm about to say is going to sound too simple. You're going to think, that's it? And I'm asking you to trust the simplicity. Because the reason most phone reduction strategies fail isn't that they're too hard. It's that they're aimed at the wrong thing. The first thing that actually works is this. Make the phone boring. Not unusable. Boring. Switch your screen to grayscale. It sounds ridiculous. It works. The colors in apps, the red notification badges, the vivid thumbnails, the bright interface designs are not accidental. Color is stimulating. Color draws the eye. Color triggers emotion. Remove the color, and the phone becomes a tool instead of an experience. Most people who try grayscale mode report that within a few days, picking up the phone feels noticeably less compelling. The urge is still there, but it's quieter. Move your most used apps off your home screen. Don't delete them. Just move them somewhere that requires an extra tap or two to reach. That tiny amount of friction is enough to interrupt automatic reaching. You have to decide to open it, rather than just opening it. Log out of the apps you check impulsively. The login step creates a pause, and in that pause is a question. Do I actually want to do this right now, or am I just doing it? You'd be amazed how often the answer when you actually ask it is not really. The second thing that works is replacing, not restricting. This is the one people miss most. When you set a screen time limit and it runs out, what do? You feel the pull. The need that the phone was meeting is still there. And since you haven't given it anywhere else to go, you override the limit and open the app anyway. You have to give the need somewhere to go. If your phone is your boredom solution, keep a book somewhere visible, not hidden in a bag. Visible. On your desk, on the couch, on your nightstand. Make it the easy reach instead. If your phone is your morning routine, replace the scroll with something that meets the same need for information or gentle stimulation. A physical newspaper, a podcast while you make coffee, a specific 5-minute briefing you've chosen, rather than an algorithm that's chosen for you.
If your phone is how you wind down at night, find something that achieves the same thing without the stimulation. The goal of nighttime scrolling is usually just to decompress, to transition from the day to sleep. A podcast with a sleep timer does this. A physical book does this. Even just lying in the dark and letting your thoughts wander does this, if you can tolerate it.
The third thing, and this is the one that changes everything long term, is learning to sit with discomfort for 30 seconds. That's it, 30 seconds. When you feel the urge to reach for your phone, don't reach for it immediately. Just wait 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds, ask yourself one question. What am I actually feeling right now? Not why am I reaching for my phone, just what's underneath this? Sometimes it's boredom. Sometimes it's anxiety about something specific. Sometimes it's loneliness. Sometimes it's just habit so deep it doesn't have a feeling attached to it at all. You don't have to fix whatever you find. You don't even have to not pick up the phone.
There's one last thing I want to say, and it's the part most reduce your screen time videos skip entirely. If you've tried all of this before and it didn't stick, the friction, the replacements, the limits, the pauses, the question worth asking is, what is the phone protecting you from? Because for some people, constant phone use is really about not wanting to be alone with their own thoughts. And the thoughts they're avoiding are specific. A relationship that isn't working, a career that doesn't feel right, a version of their life they haven't dealt with yet. The phone is a very effective way to never quite have to sit with that. But the thing about avoidance is that it has compound interest. The longer you avoid something, the larger it grows in your mind, and the more you need to avoid it. You don't have to solve everything today. But if you put the phone down, even for 10 minutes, and something uncomfortable surfaces, that's not a sign that something is wrong with you. That's a sign that something is waiting for your attention. And you are more capable of facing it than you think. If you feel satisfied, check out how you sabotage good things in life.